Hi, everybody. I am Carla Eboli, EVP of Multicultural at Energy BBDO. Today, we are here to talk about the impact of COVID 19 on the Latinx population. And I invited three guests, three specialists, that will share their perspectives and point of views. Liz Gruszkiewicz, VP of Consumer Marketing for the American Egg Board, Jovanny Martinez, Senior Hispanic Marketing Manager at Avocados From Mexico, and Yesenia Bello, SVP of Multicultural at iHeartMedia. Well, thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation. We are flattered. We know that Latinos, Latinx, and the U.S. Hispanic population overall is suffering a lot with this crisis. So I think it's going to be a very important and productive conversation. So, Liz, I'm going to start with you. We are seeing reports issued by the CDC, Departments of Health of different states, AARP, and other entities saying that COVID 19 cases are showing up among Latinos and people of color at a higher rate across the United States. In New York, for example, 34% of the people that died of coronavirus are Latinx. Can you tell us, obviously, from your perspective, knowing that you're not a healthcare specialist, but more, from the business perspective, um, why do you think that this disease is hitting U.S. Hispanic so much harder?
Sure. Thanks, Carla. Based on the reports I have been reading, there's several factors that contribute to this disproportionate rate of COVID-19 cases, particularly among low-income Hispanics and Blacks. And as I understand this, this is potentially more serious for us as Hispanics. There's health disparity. We suffer disproportionately higher rates of underlying medical conditions, which which makes us particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. We also tend to live in densely populated areas. And as you know, multi-generational households are also common among Latinos. So this makes it harder to protect older family members or isolate those who are sick if space in the home is limited.
Mhm.
And then thirdly, Hispanics and Blacks are also disproportionately represented in the essential sectors. What is happening right now, what keeps things going. And this work takes place outside the home despite what's happening in our communities. So there's workers at healthcare facilities, grocery stores, agriculture, law, and law enforcement, for example.
Yeah, that's a very insightful point because it's important to highlight that the people that are out there helping us and helping the country
Mhm.
to, keep on moving, they are primarily, Latinx and people of color. Giovanni, let me ask you, knowing that, Latinx are also being affected by the financial effects of this health crisis. And according to a recent Mintel report, almost 50% of Latinx say that they or someone in their household got laid off or had to take a pay cut. So, what, from your perspective, is the impact to the American economy as Latinx are losing their jobs, getting pay cuts? Therefore, we're seeing a decrease in their purchasing power.
Well, I think, first of all, it is concerning, right? Starting with the perspective that we were seeing before starting with last year, right? Mintel was reporting that only 17% of the Hispanics saw themselves in danger of losing their jobs or getting cut their income source, right? So only 17%, and we are hearing now that 50% of them are being. That is huge, right? Uh, we saw also that 32% of Hispanics consider themselves financially prepared, only 32%. So we are seeing that the impact is bigger than the actual preparation or the actual concerns. But even if all these Hispanics had that concern at the end of 2019, these initial concerns didn't translate into change. That is, I think, the big part, right? That there was not enough time for our community to really get savings or different sources of income, right? Also, and I think Liz mentioned a little bit this, it's important to realize that there are some inequalities here, right? Numbers are reflecting this bigger impact in the community. The number that you just said, that 50% of Hispanics are losing their jobs or getting cuts in paid, it's compared versus 33% on the total US. And we're talking about numbers of about a month ago. I mean, imagine what is today, right? With 4 weeks more of this COVID situation. So this is getting just very, very impactful for our community. And now, if you take in consideration Hispanics, last year we were seeing projections of the purchase power about $1.7 trillion. Nielsen has compared that purchase power or has estimated that it's at least 10% of the US total purchase power. So that is telling us that it's going to have an important impact, not just in the Hispanic community, but in the economy of the total country. What I think is going to have effect this is, well, definitely we'll see more changes in patterns in behaviors. We'll definitely will see impact on entertainment and of course consumption, right? We are seeing right now how consumers are actually trying to get adapt to the situation, and the purchase habits are changing. They are not going as usually to the grocery stores and all that. And I think that it will take a while just for the community, for the Hispanic community to get back to normal. So we'll see more and more affectations. And of course, I think all the brands, all the companies will need to find strategies to first help and second fit into this new situation.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Even more, when we think that Hispanics they also are an important contingent of small business owners. So they also generate a lot of jobs in our country, right? But you touched in something, very important that I want to, talk with us, Yesenia, about, which is, Mintel report also shows that, Latinx are consuming more media
Mhm.
and online content than ever before. Obviously, during this lockdown period, everybody's at home with a family. So, yes, and what is your data showing regarding the streaming of Latino music during this period of like lockdown? And if you can identify Latinos within your databases, how they are consuming music at this point?
Thank you, Carla. Definitely interesting times that is making people just want to consume more content, not only for informational purposes, but also for entertainment. Traditionally, when we are in a normal environment, we see a lot of consumption through traditional radio, people listening to music during their drive to work, during their drive back home, in the afternoon as they're running errands. Now that listening has shifted over to streaming. And, obviously we have the iHeartRadio app, which has been skyrocketing in terms of listening, not only across general populations, but especially across multicultural consumers. So we're seeing people just shifting behavior from traditional radio listening to the streaming app. Also, podcast listening has been hugely successful. We benefit from having one of the strongest podcast networks in the U.S. And now during this situation, we've seen that we're leading in terms of content consumption. People wanting to find new shows, not only again to inform themselves, but also to just learn something new, a new skill, to hear other people tell stories. So it's been obviously unfortunate situation, but given that people are just looking for ways to stay engaged at home with their kids, with their families. I think now it's been amazing just to see how people are responding to new content. We actually ended up launching a new show in Spanish language with one of our radio personalities because we wanted to really tap into this time when people are just looking to escape, looking for new ways to just learn something new. So we were able to launch a Spanish language show on our podcast network just to engage more of the Hispanic listeners. And it's been hugely successful. That interview style format, people wanting to learn more and just hear more from different stories, I think has been beneficial for us. So it's a time when we're just trying to keep people hopeful, optimistic, obviously looking forward. And I think content is a perfect way to do that.
Yeah, I love what you just said about, learning something new. I think that a lot of my Latino friends, they are using the time to kind of, broaden their skills, getting ready to come back,
Mhm,
to the workforce. So they are supplementing skills,
mhm.
but they are also learning how to adapt and change their
Right.
lives. And that's what I want to talk to Liz about. Um, I was reading a recent report from People in Espanol about how Latinas, and specifically, I'm talking about women, are adapting to time with a family during obviously this unprecedented period of time, showing that, they actually improved their diet and food habits during this stay in place periods. Do you think that these changes in eating habits and patterns, they will last even after the lockdown period?
Well, this hasn't happened before, so it's very hard to predict. I think Latinos and consumers in general will be cautiously excited to start incorporating back some of their normal routines, and hopefully also, in some way after lockdowns are lifted, and also holding on to some of those positive changes that have started happening while spending more time at home. As it relates to improved food diet and food habits, I think that COVID-19 has put a spotlight on how important overall health is for all of us, despite of our ethnic backgrounds, right? So I can only hope that this really inspires Latino consumers to really do follow and pursue a healthy diet during and after the shelter in place order. Preparing and eating meals at home set you up for more success.
Mhm.
So that will be helpful. I do know, perhaps from personal experience, but also I see it in reports that snacking is on the rise. So I would hope as the shelter in place order is lifted, snacking will come down. I need that to happen since we won't be in constant proximity to our refrigerators and pantries.
Well, or at least, opt for more healthy snacks like,
Oh,
boiled eggs or,
thank you.
some
Absolutely.
avocado toast that is kind of, almost a meal, but it's a very good snack. But in that sense, I'm going to ask Giovanni, you also mentioned, Giovanni, how brands can help consumers. So the same report from People in Espanol, it's a great report, by the way, are saying that, those Latina moms, they are saying that their family are eating healthier. They're eating together more often as a family, and they wanna recipes that are easy and quick because obviously they are overwhelmed with the house, the husband, the kids, and sometimes working outside of the house. So how brands, as you mentioned, like Avocado from Mexico and other brands can help these consumers during this overwhelming period of time, in cooking and, prepare themselves beyond the pandemic situation.
Yeah, so first, I think all brands in general need to be careful on what they are putting out there, right? What they are communicating these days. We need to be very sensitive with the people that is having losses, with the people that is having affectations because of the situation. So it's that is usually right what we need to put special attention of what we are telling consumers right now. This might sound cheesy a little bit, but I think it is true, right? This time is not about it's about we, right? It's about the community, it's about everybody. So particularly at Avocados from Mexico, we are looking for a balance in our communications. We know that the offline media is growing crazy, right? Consumers are consuming more and more that, but also online is getting a lot of traction, you know. And with that, I mean, we have launched, for instance, a digital campaign with recommendations during this time, trying to support, you know, our community, trying to remind them, you know, what are good habits for this pandemic situation, but also in terms of eating healthy, right? But we are trying to provide our consumers, you know, on top of this, also some entertainment, right? Because they need it, and you said it. I mean, we are seeing an increase on Latinas and Latinos that are cooking more at home and things like that. So we are trying and we are continue with this production of recipes. We are producing segments with our PR agencies, you know, that they are helping us just to show consumers, you know, how they can do an easy and nutritious meal during this pandemic time, you know, and just trying to stay more at home and enjoy it. You will see, I mean, this week is a very important week for Avocados from Mexico. We have Cinco de Mayo, right? So we launched this homemade Cinco campaign on digital. You probably will see it, right? And it's right now increasing the hashtag homemade Cinco. And we are trying just to show consumers, you know, how they can celebrate Cinco at home, you know? So we are taking in consideration all these facts and still trying to provide consumers with more information that is helpful. Again, we are not the experts in the health experts, but we can also, we have learned about this situation. So we are just sending some messages of the consumers on that, and at the same time, trying to send some entertainment and why not good recipes to enjoy with avocados from Mexico.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you mentioned, the Cinco because obviously the one of the reasons why we brought this panel together this week is we understand that Cinco sometimes, get a little bit too partish, but we understand that Cinco de Mayo is a meaningful date for the Mexican community primarily. So we really thought that, this panel would honor Cinco as an important date for the Mexicans more than the party side of it because we like meaningful conversation. So I'm glad to have the three of you here. But also, curious fact that I want to touch base with Yesenia about it: how music and cooking, they walk hand in hand within the Hispanic community, right?
Absolutely. And I can speak for myself. I've been getting very creative with my recipes, with obviously eggs and avocado, my two favorite ingredients. I think it's a time where people are exploring. A lot of people are finding out that they actually can cook, being able to dedicate time to making their own meals at home, not only for themselves, but also for their family. I think a lot of people are exploring all of the things that they can do and getting very creative. And, music is a huge part of that. Going back to, Latinos are a very resilient community. We're very happy. We're just always looking for the positive side of things. And music plays a big role, whether you're cooking or cleaning or just wanting to escape and just go back to a happy time. I think music plays a huge role. So we are seeing a lot of people curating playlists, obviously tuning into their favorite artists. One of the things that we've been able to do is engage our consumers through virtual concert experiences and having a lot of the artists come together and share that positive message with the community. Tomorrow, you guys will see iHeart is participating in the Altissimo concert. which is a benefit concert that will go directly to benefit farmers, farm workers. As you know, farm workers are definitely keeping this country alive and obviously everyone fed. So we wanted to make sure that we're contributing to the farm workers and helping them also come out of this stronger. So again, music is just such an uplifting thing in our lives. Again, we can think about all of the major milestones, and music always plays a role. And I think that will definitely be the case coming out of COVID-19, people associating with those celebrities that were there sharing a positive message, or that music playlist that they went into. We see a lot of people creating COVID-19 playlists just to keep their spirits, positive. So music is definitely a huge part of our experience today.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. And I'm glad you mentioned farmers, because I want to ask a question to both Liz and Giovanni, because both your, the products that you guys represent and work with, eggs and avocados, they have, high penetration within Latinx households. So what changes, if any, Liz, I'm going to ask you to start. Are you seeing in consumption of this of eggs during this period?
I'm sure. Eggs benefit from 94% household penetration in the United States. So, I mean, eggs are in most US refrigerators, right? Um, so, at the outset of this, what we realized was that eggs, which were already in people's homes, in most people's homes, actually became even more important to people. We saw a huge bump in retail egg sales, peaking during the third week of March, with equalized dozen volume about 70% higher than that same week a year ago. Sales since have stabilized in the last few weeks, but we're still showing an increase over a year ago. And we're not getting those reports broken out by Hispanic and non-Hispanic at this point, but overall, huge increases, and obviously increases on the retail side, decreases on the food service side, since so much of the food service side is inactive. But yeah, from a consumer standpoint, at one point it seemed that eggs were as sought after as toilet paper. And interestingly, Hispanics have always been a core consumer for us, core consumer of eggs, with volume for Hispanics being higher than non-Hispanics. And our current marketing strategy, which focuses on versatility, which has proven so helpful for our consumers during this time. They have eggs in their house, so we continue to provide them with ideas on how to use them up. This versatility strategy was inspired by Hispanics. Many Hispanic cuisines incorporated eggs into their dishes way beyond breakfast. And our tracking shows that non-Hispanic households have started to adopt this behavior. So unlike so many foods, eggs can be prepared and liked in so many different ways. And we assume and hope that while people have been spending more time at home, more eggs are being used every day and throughout the day. They are a high quality protein. They're versatile, easy to prepare, especially when parents are balancing work, homeschooling, and feeding a family multiple times throughout the day. It's a really good, practical meal solution. And we can't forget, comfort baking and baking for fun. Eggs are an essential ingredient for that. And as Yesenia said, so many people are cooking and experimenting at home. So that has definitely helped increase consumption.
Giovanni,
I just made a
go
banana
ahead.
bread. I just made a banana bread using eggs and obviously experimenting. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think this is the time where people are going to find that there are so many things that they can do with what they have at home, and eggs is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, with on the avocado side, initially when all this started, with all this panic of purchases and things, we saw definitely a decrease in sales. Obviously, and we are tracking really close how the shoppers are changing behaviors. We definitely consumers are not going as frequent as they used to go to these grocery stores, right? So initially we saw a decrease on the sales, but now we are seeing an impressive recovery. And I think it has a lot to do with well, Cinco de Mayo, and but also, you know, with what you just said, Carla, right? It's about avocados being healthy, a healthy solution, right? So consumers know that, right? So that is an easy solution for an avocado toast, you know, just a little tostada just by itself. So it's really versatile, right? So uh, we were also exploring a little bit, you know, a lot of consumers are moving into the online purchases, right? But we are not seeing that effect, at least in the avocados, you know, and we have a previous research with Hispanics, and we just heard how they put special attention in the way that they pick the avocados, right? So our feeling is that they are not trusting really to put an online order for to select their avocados. You know, for them it's really important to be there, to take it, to feel it, you know that that is the avocado they want. But yeah, I think they now we are seeing this recovery. The last 2 weeks in importations from Mexico have been huge, right? And we are seeing that consumers are trying to get back to these habits, and they are moving more into the health options, such as the avocado.
Yeah, I think that again, both the three of you have different products, but obviously we are seeing and talking with the friends. Everybody's talking about baking with a lot of eggs. Everybody's talking about entertaining the family with music. Everybody's talking about, oh my gosh, how avocados solve so many problems. So it's phenomenal to have you guys here. We're running out of time. I'm going to have last questions for the three of you. I'm going to ask Liz to start, and then Jovanny, Yesenia. Um, Several states are now reopening. Some businesses are, already open. Some others, preparing. And still, according to Mintel, Latinx, they believe that they will be able to overcome the current challenges through hard work. It's not a big surprise for us. So, if you had a crystal ball, knowing, Latinx, which habits do you think that will last, and the ones that you think that kind of it's gonna go back? My bet is Latinx people won't be able to not touch, not kiss, not hug. I think that it's very ingrained in our society and our costumes. So I think that, very soon we're gonna, be hugging our, friends and family. Liz, what is your prediction?
I think that that's a big one, and I'm looking forward to being able to hug and kiss more of my friends and family. The restrictions easing will coincide with summer, right? And with summer around the corner, we can't help but think what summer is usually like in cities like ours, like Chicago: outdoor concerts, street fairs, festivals, big family reunions. This summer will be different, right? A lot of organized events have been canceled, and the Latino consumer will have less money to spend on other external sources of entertainment. So I think the focus will most likely remain time with family and friends, and food will always be at the center of that. So I think that there's going to be an increased interest in recipes. For example, thinking about it from my world, in recipes and foods that make individual servings easier to serve and present, while still being able to host a party and be social, right? I would also predict that there's going to be more get-togethers where people bring their own, right? BYO get-togethers, things like that.
Jovanny,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think it's gonna be a slow cure, right? Going back to normal. It's going to take time. I think. I mean, here in Texas, you know, I mean, a lot of businesses are opening starting May 1st. But what we have seen is people is not going back yet, right? I think a lot of that has to do with that the all the speeches, all the communication that we are seeing on media, it's still a little negative, right? Is and I think that's the way that honestly needs to be a little bit, right? So people make precautions, they do what they have to do, right? But it's going to take time for people to understand that this is passing, right? Trying to just get back to our normal is going to be hard. We will need to find new ways to live with all this in between us, right? It's going to take time, but yeah, I think you said we have a very resilient community, and we are going to continue. I hope we will continue hugging and kissing, and that's for sure. But yeah, we will need to change some other habits, right? In order to live, in a more health environment. Of course, this. I mean, in some, if you think economically, will have also an impact, not just on the Hispanics, in general, with all businesses. They are adopting new rules, new procedures, just to have this health situation control. That definitely will have an impact in our lives, and the Latino community will not excuse for that.
Yesenia, what is your bet?
I couldn't agree more with what both of you just said, but I think also greater focus on health, and obviously paying attention to your health, maybe getting to the doctor more frequently just to avoid future complications, going back to what we said at the beginning. So greater focus on health. And also I think people will find ways to simplify their lives, again, enjoy the summer, enjoy life, but in a simpler way, not overcomplicating things. Definitely bring your own food, bring your own booze, for example, but also just, instead of planning a crazy expensive or complicated vacation, people are just going to try to find ways to just enjoy their family. Gratitude, obviously people are very focused on being grateful for their health, for everything that they have. So I think that's just going to drive people to simplify their lives as much as possible moving forward.
Well, listen, I am counting down the minutes to see the three of you in person and being able to hug you all, which I have the pleasure not only to work with you, but also call you guys my friends. Thank you so much for making the time. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in and joined our conversation. If you have any additional questions, you can send an email to me, Carla.eboli, Eboli, at energybbdo.com, and I will be glad to share questions with our guests and get back to you. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
good one.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.